Welcome. Today we're going to talk about two books, kind of prompted by one, which is The Dip by Seth Godin. This is my second reading of The Dip, and as I was going through it, I took, we'll say, exception with some of the stuff he said about specializing, especially in light of the book Range by David Epstein. I will link to my original review of just this book in the show notes. So we're going to talk about kind of contrasting the two. I think I started this thinking that they were a lot farther apart than they are, but I think as I worked through this in writing in the script here, they are a lot closer than I originally thought. I thought they were very opposed, and now I think they're actually talking about different aspects of the same thing. Before we get into this, though, I want to talk about a few things. First off, you can support the channel by going to two ways. Go to patreon.com/CurtisMcHale, support the channel. Number two is to go to curtismchale.ca/Skillshare, take one of my courses, like how to use TickTick or on time blocking. Now, The Dip and Range. Buckle up. Before I really get into the comparison of the two books, or kind of where I thought the ideas didn't line up, I want to talk about kind of the big idea that I keep coming back to in The Dip. And that is when you're in kind of this section. So the idea of the dip is really in here, right? You do some effort at the beginning, you start seeing progress, then you start putting in more effort, and there's less progress, less traction happening until you push through this hard spot, and then it gets, lots of progress again. And it's talking about specifically this chunk, that dip. And one of the things that I keep coming back to regularly is his 3 questions to ask yourself when you're in the dip, whether you should quit or keep going. Number 1 is, are you panicking? So is it just some confluence of events that has you panicking in the moment? Right. Number 2 is who you're trying to influence. Are you getting to the right people in your market? Are you getting to enough people in your market? Something he says here is that most of your market has probably never even heard of you, so they haven't had a chance to say no yet. And third is, what sort of measurable progress am I seeing? So are you seeing steps forward, steps saying that, yes, this is good, right? So in a YouTube context, this could be, am I seeing more people commenting on my book videos? Yes, I am. Am I seeing people asking for it? Stuff like a Discord community? Yes, I am. Am I seeing more revenue? A little bit, depending on how YouTube views work that week, but I'm seeing more subscribers. I'm just seeing more engagement and more people asking me for things and other sources based on my content on YouTube. So then I would say, yes, I am making measurable forward progress in YouTube, whatever my goal is here, which I don't actually know. It's book reviews are for me first. Now, some of the conflict or the issues I see in the book is Seth Godin says diversification is a terrible idea. In the dip anyways. When you're in the middle of your dip, you shouldn't be diversifying, saying, hey, I'm going to go try a little bit of something else and a little bit of something else, which kind of stands in contrast to Range. And the subtitle to Range is Why Generalists Triumph in a Specialized World. So Range talked a lot about how the science teams that succeed have a very diverse background. If they're all definitely in the same field, have the same training, then they actually have less creative ideas. If you have someone who they're a scientist now, but they did construction, civil engineering, something else before, they're more likely to have novel ideas to solve your problem than just that straight up general scientist that's been specialized in one field for their whole life, right? Even the guy who wrote Range, he wrote another book. Did I write it down? It's about the sports gene. That's what it's called. But he got to write that because he had a science background, so he understood science in general. It was more of a biology background. I think he spent time in Antarctica, if I remember correctly. He had a background writing for Sports Illustrated, and then he had a background writing books. And then because of the confluence of these 3 things, right? So he kind of hit the hard part in all of them, and this is where we're going to get into the dip again. He was able to write the sports gene. He was specifically tailored to write that book. So as I started, and Seth Godin says hey, don't diversify. You need to specialize. You need to stick it out. And as I was kind of working through that idea, saying no, but Range says find your thing and then stick it out, I suppose. And so what it looks like, what I came to is, in Range, he said, do diversify. Your myriad of experiences will let you be really good at something in the future that you can't even say, right? So I could say my counseling degree helped me do some business coaching, which I finished counseling and said I am not a good counselor. I'm a better business coach because I'm better to say, hey, why are you doing something stupid? Stop it. Which is better for business coaching and counseling. You need to be a lot softer than I naturally tend to, right? Or that lets me do that. Or like I was an outdoor guide for years. I can ice climb and rock climb, and I mountain run and ride bikes and a whole bunch of other stuff. But that has also let me do contracts for people who they start talking about something. It's like, oh yeah, I absolutely know all of these things because I have done many of these things, right? And I have contacts in the industry still as well. That has set me up for having like a web work with some of these people. So I think where it came down to at the end is that what range kind of says, if we look at it in the dip, is that it's okay to quit those things. So David Epstein quitting, being that, I think it was the biology, the scientist major, right? He got to the hard part and was like, no, this isn't for me. Like, I don't want to be locked away in Antarctica for all this time. This isn't for me, right? He did Sports Illustrated for a while and wrote, and it was good. And then it, not for him. So he quit. He quit in the dip in a few things, which is what Seth Godin says. He says, actually, you either need to quit really quick in the dip so that you don't waste time, because every moment you spend in the dip where you're actually going to quit later is like uber wasted time. It's super wasted time where you just like you're not getting anything there, right? You put in all this effort in that dip chunk where you're still not getting lots of traction, where you're still not seeing the benefit out of it. And instead you either need to quit early and move on to something else where you can possibly, push through, or you need to just stick it out on this one. And there's no kind of middle ground for him. And that's really it. Like I started thinking that Godin was telling us like never diversify. But what he's really saying is quit, and looking at range, that the quitting a bunch of things early enough when they're just not getting it right will allow you to have that range, have that wealth of experience that can bring into your future career. Another interesting thing even out of range is the wicked versus kind learning environments. Chess is kind, the rules don't change, the moves are known. Wicked is almost anything, lots of other things, right? YouTube, being any type of creative. Even programming sometimes, where you're like, it doesn't work this time, but it worked last time. Why? Or it works. I have no idea why. I will not touch it again. And that in a kind learning environment, it's easy to keep going because you see traction. There's like a more linear progress. In a wicked learning environment, it's like fight through your dip until you get to that moment of clarity, that moment where you finally found the confluence of events, the confluence of experience that allow you to succeed. So, and they're both really good books. If you're looking for some advice on when to quit, when to keep going, The Dip is a really good book. If you're looking at, again, actually very similar really now that I think about it. If you're looking at how you can use diversification, how you can use general, like why being a generalist is good, why you do not need to specialize from the time you're like 10 or the time you're 19, or the time whatever, like why you can keep trying diverse things and still come out far ahead. In this book, it actually talked even about many of those early starters. They're going to stick. And then by the time they're like 35, they're like, nah, I actually hate my job. Why am I here? Or 40, right? Which means that they pushed a lot through the dip, looking at the dip, and then quit. Whereas a lot of the generalists, they try this, try that, and maybe they actually come to their career later, so in their mid-30s, and they really decide then what they want to do, and so their wages are actually been lower than their colleagues, so their colleagues specialized early, but then by the time you get to your 40s, mid-40s, their wages are much higher often than their colleagues because they didn't do the quit. They are in something that they're really good at, that they have the diverse experience to be able to do, and just be able to push forward. So that's what I think about the two books. Wasn't quite a review of The Dip. It's a good book. It's a short read. That's probably the big thing. It's a really short read. I read it in a morning, maybe an hour and a half, so maybe 2 mornings. Very short read. Godin's style is kind of, I'm going to throw an idea out there and take it or don't. And it's a very short chapter. Some of them are like, 10 lines on a page. So, but good book. I would recommend both of them. That's it. If you like video, thumbs up below. If you loved it, subscribe, hit the bell on YouTube. Maybe let you know that something happened, but who knows. The other ways to support the channel are to go to curtismchale.ca/Skillshare, take my course on time blocking, or take my course on TickTick. Or you can go to patreon.com/curtismchale, where you can support the channel. Other ways that we're thinking about doing, if you want a Discord channel, some people have asked, so I'm going to start putting this in for a bit. If you want a Discord channel, let me know. Just say yes, Discord in the bottom. And then I would open up a Discord channel if we get enough kind of yeses, that I will let you know what books I'm reading early so that we can maybe discuss them there, and that we're just, all prepped for that. That's it. Have an awesome day.